Hello and welcome to another episode of the Insight Edit. Today, Harry and I, we're going to talk about how to get as much content out of your projects as possible. So let's get started. Today we are going to be talking about turning one video into multiple assets because too often I think clients make the one film and then don't think about how to squeeze as much content out of it. And you've got a lot of experience with that, with sort of the retail space, food, beverage, when you think of Silent Pool and Popeyes, Krispy Kreme, some of our clients. But where do we want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think like those clients that you mentioned, there's some clients that come to us and they know that they're creating a campaign, right? So that we'll go and do a shoot and we'll film something. We'll make like a main video, which is sort of our first focus. But once we've got that and they're happy with it, we then reformat that for in-store screens, for social media campaigns, for paid online adverts, for app, videos that go into apps and things like that, and their website content. So they know they're going into it, and they provide us with a list of all the different things they want. And we're just taking that same original content and creating this whole suite of assets for them.
Yeah.
Whereas we have other clients that come to us, and in their mind, they're paying for a video. So we make that main video, we send it off, that's it. But there's so much more that they could be doing with it.
Yeah.
Sure, they might not be a client with stores, with screens and things. They might not need that, but there's still social campaigns that they can do. There's still, all sorts of other ways that they could use those assets for different purposes. And, we've got the footage there. We've done the hard work. It's now just a case of using it in all those different ways. So there's a lot more that they could be getting from things if they knew that was an option.
Yeah. I think to your point, there's clients that know they need the full assets, the full world of it all. And then when it is clients that say, we just want to make a case study film, a client testimonial, a day in the life film, whatever it might be, they are thinking solely, aren't they, about that one product and aren't thinking about how they could tell that same story in loads of other ways as well. And sometimes it's just a matter of, tweaking, just creating some social cut downs, making it a lot smaller. Sometimes it's about just thinking strategically up front, how could this be turned out differently later on? Because what you find is clients will end up making one big video, they put it out, and then it kind of just gets lost over time, and they're not stretching out, like you say, turning that into a campaign. Might not be for in-store, but it still works the same for social, articles, blog posts, whatever it might be. There's so many other ways to distribute, and too often it's just thought about later.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because the more planning you do going into it, the easier it's going to be to repurpose those assets. For example, if you are planning to shoot at landscape and we do everything for that, and then we come along and say, oh, actually we want to do a load of TikTok videos out of this, it could be difficult if we've not planned for that, or there could be certain introductions to videos, the way that it's presented or something. If we know on the shoot we're going to be using it for all these different purposes, we can add in different introductions or something for each video. We can tailor it to all these different purposes. If we know we're going into it with the idea of making a suite of assets, it actually then gives us what we need to create it in a way that allows us to get a lot more out of the content for not really any added cost. It's just a mindset change. Are we making one product or are we making a whole suite of assets?
Absolutely. There's a lot of I don't want to start talking too much about things like AI, but there's a lot of AI tools now that can take some things like main films and cut those down and shorter. Obviously, you do need the human input there, but like you say, from a cost perspective, it's not suddenly enormous when you think about getting more from it. It's just being clever about how to do that and how to execute it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose there's two approaches to it. You can either just say you've got this main film, that's the thing that you were planning to make the whole time. You can either just do cut downs of that. So we just let's take this 20-second clip and upload that as its own video, which it might be the core of what the video's about really, and the rest might just be added. It might give more detail to what's going on, but the core of it could be captured in 20 seconds. And that can just be extracted by itself. You put a nice beginning and call to action on the end, send that off as a separate social video. But the other approach, of course, is that we've got this library of footage that we've shot on the day. You could actually make a whole different video out of that.
Absolutely.
And sometimes our clients have come back to us a year later and said, actually, we need this whole new video. And it's like, well, you could go out and shoot a whole new thing, but actually you've got all this footage sitting here. We can work with that and create because when budgets are low or something towards the end of the year, you've not got much left. You can actually create a whole new video out of the existing footage, and we've done that before.
That actually brings me to another point, to your point there about sort of having a library of footage. Is one thing that can be quite clever to do, and we've done it on numerous occasions, is sometimes it's about going to... The one thing everyone lacks is B-roll, isn't it? Like, B-roll is hard to get, and unless you're going to rely on stock. When you have things like talking heads or day in the lives or office tours, whatever it might be, the one thing you lack is B-roll. And there's been a couple of clients who have just paid for us to simply do a B-roll day and just create that library of footage for the purpose of inserting into whatever video that feels relevant. And they can be very, very clever, because you could do that globally. We've done it a lot in London, but we have done it in other countries as well, where you literally just turn up a set of shots that we need to get that covers a good variety of things, and just simply dedicate a day to filming that and not using it right now, but just storing it aside
well, that's
for the future.
And that brings me to another point about our long-term clients, is that maybe we're 5-6 jobs down the road, and now we've got actually quite a substantial library of footage. And that 7th film doesn't necessarily require a shoot at all. We've got all that other stuff there, and adding a little bit of stock footage here and there.
The new voiceover.
New music. It just feels like a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Not to underestimate what can be done with that backlog of footage that we've got.
Yeah. I think moving away from existing, and we can definitely come back to it, the other thing is to think about is new brands, or brands that want to revive themselves and bring themselves back to life, is thinking wider, which is where other films do come in, but having that brand film, but also the accompanying films that support it. So, if you're making a brand film and you really were going out and filming it all, why not also put a film out later about the behind the scenes of making that?
Yeah.
Why not put a film out that now focuses on the people of the business? You've got one now that talks about brand, but now focus on one that talks about people.
Well, that's the other thing, because at the moment so far we've talked about this idea of having one main film and then extracting lots of little clips from it. But the other way to do it is say, okay, well, we want to create a video for this purpose. Maybe it's recruitment or something. But we also maybe want a video that is just general brand recognition. Well, you can use the same footage to create both videos. You can go out on the shoot and capture this, that, and the other thing in order to create your recruitment video. But just by the way we edit it differently, or the text we put on screen, or the voiceovers that we're using, you can create a whole different film that's just for brand, or you can do something else that's just for product promotion. Like, there's whatever your purpose for the video is, you don't have to just make that video.
No. And something you mentioned earlier about sort of recording like alternative takes of stuff on shoot days is important, I think, because when you go to a shoot day, and you could, in the case of recruitment, be doing a bunch of talking heads, you may be making a culture film. You're asking 8 or 9 questions to 6-7 employees. You're going to end up with a bunch of content there. If you also want to do that brand film and you want to feature a couple more in, all you've got to do is add those extra couple of questions for the purpose of a different video. Because if you're already on the shoot day and you've got these people and you've got their time, stretch as much as you can get out of these people. And the same way that we've done talking heads before, where the core of the content is maybe the same, but all it takes is recording a different intro and an outro to completely tailor it to a different market.
Yeah.
So getting as much out of the shoot day itself can be very, very clever, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you just think of it in terms of an investment. The bulk of the money goes into arranging that shoot day, renting the kit, having everybody travel there for the day. All this, cost goes into getting everybody there ready to film something. Are you just going to then film one small thing and go home, or are you going to spend that full day filming as much as you possibly can, so that there's this room to create all this content later on?
And when we talk about all the content, it isn't, though, just a case of just making content for the sake of it and just getting as much out. It still needs a point. It still needs a purpose, doesn't it? It's the same way that if you were to take something and just cut it down. I mean, we're working on a case study at the moment, which is just done virtually. It's just virtual talking heads. It does a very, very good job at sort of portraying the case. But when it comes to the cut downs, we're not just finding cut downs. We're making sure that the cut downs from it are tailored to maybe answer a specific question or a challenge, so that smaller video still has a point. You could still watch that smaller video without the need of the full context of the video and still get something from it. which it needs to be thought about strategically, doesn't it?
So I think it's worth thinking about that it's not just about creating lots of different videos for the sake of it. It's about creating a cohesive suite of content that matches your brand across different platforms.
Yeah, and can connect back to it just naturally.
Yeah, so like some of our clients might have, like I said, videos on social, videos in store, videos on apps and websites and things. And when a customer sees each of those and they all match and it's a different version of the same video, but it's cohesive across all platforms, it calls back to something you've seen before, because we see so much on social now. As soon as you've seen it, you've forgotten about it. Well, if later on you encounter that same video in a different format somewhere else, it's going to tie those two memories together, and it just creates a cohesive idea.
It basically ends up enhancing the brand recognition, the identity, the credibility, that all those things have a big impact on the client in terms of the business themselves, but also, like you say, onto the audience. You might see it once, you see it again, you start to see it again and again, and before you know it, you could recite back the campaign you've seen somewhere. Have you seen that thing, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so it's something that I really picked up on in the cinema, actually, is I've started to notice they do this thing now in the adverts where there'll be like a 2-3 second advert.
Oh, I've
sometimes like
noticed
it's
that.
a bird flying along.
Yeah.
You're like, what's that about? And then it carries on. And then like 5 minutes later, in amongst the other adverts, there'll be that bird just flying along for like 10 seconds now. You're like, what's
I've
that
seen
about?
that.
And then towards the end of the adverts, there's a full 30-second advert where that bird swoops in and does a thing, and then there's a reason for it. And I don't know what they're doing there, but it's something psychological, isn't it? Where it's like it plants the idea, you recognise it, there's a little bit of what's going on there, and then you're actually much more invested when the advert comes in, that you've kind of seen it and you want to know what's going on.
Are you invested? Because I'm frustrated, quite frankly. In that case, I can't stand the adverts in the cinema. I went to see Wicked the other day, going off subject here, but I went to see the Wicked the other day, and the adverts took half an hour.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Top tip, though, you can see when the film's going to end, work out the length. It's on the booking website. It tells you when it's going to end, and then you know the length of the film. You can just go in at the start of the film.
I get nervous. I have to do nervous wheeze and everything before the cinema. Honestly, it's unreal. I must go about 3 times. So I'm so nervous, and I use the breaks to do that because I'm so petrified I'll have to get up mid-film. So I do get there as soon as it says to get there on purpose.
Oh, no, I'm
and then I
always
get
working
frustrated.
out, just walking at the last minute.
Yeah. Anyways,
back to what we're talking about. Yeah, the idea is that you can use the video in different ways to sort of create a cohesive idea across time.
Yeah. One example that I think would be worth talking about, and you might not know of it, but there was an agency, and apologies, I can't remember the name of the agency, but they worked with a company and made 3 videos as part of sort of a complete rebrand, and they made a brand film which was a mixture of sort of self-shot footage of their offices, and also a mixture of very well put together stock, so a live action film. They also made an animation at the same time, which was about their why, I believe it was, or their purpose. And then they made another set of films, which was about culture and people. They made 3 films in one go, which felt collectively unified by the brand, the tone, the voice. But imagine how much content in one go they must have got out of that when you think about cutting it down further, because the cut downs in that case could have lasted them months, if not half a year, by the way they strategically just think about where they're going and the angles they put it out in. So sometimes it is just making one film and cutting it down and reframing it, whatever you might do. But sometimes it's worth thinking about the broader brand identity and not just that brand film, but all the other films that accompany it. Essentially creating, first of all, that foundation and then all the other stories that could trickle out of it. Because if you think of doing culture stories, you could have one film that focuses on all of our employees and then have various cut downs focusing on specifics, a film just about you and your answers and a film about me, because we're going to bring different angles to it because of our job roles or our age or the background that we've got. It's just about being strategic. I think up front is the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, we've been talking about this idea about sort of the idea of one shoot day and then lots of content that can come from that. But the other way to think about it is that you're creating a style of video or like a series or something where you make that first one and then you can then go back and do more shoots and create more content that ties into the idea that you started with.
One thing we haven't really talked about is animation.
Yeah.
Because animation actually if anything, gives you the complete freedom to completely tell a new story because there is no
that's it. I mean,
fixed asset.
like we're talking about this idea of the shoot being the hard work. With animation, it's the character design, or it's the the look and feel of the animation. I mean, a lot of work goes into getting that right. But once you've nailed that on the first project, okay, now you want to do we want to do a Christmas version. Well, it's fine. You've got the animation there.
Absolutely.
You can just change it up, add some new elements in, and suddenly some new sound effects, music, and you've made a whole new Christmas animation. And the work to get there is a lot less than starting from scratch and doing all the design work again. So, yeah, with animation, there's a lot more freedom to make all sorts of different things from it.
There's no burnt footage, is there? There's nothing burnt down.
Yeah.
It's completely adaptable. Like you say, you could rechange the colour. We've got a client, actually, Rent-A-Kill, who we've made a series of films last year and some at the start of this year, all about different pests. So we had videos focusing on spiders and ants and bed bugs and whatnot. And then we made another series which was all about seasons.
Yeah.
I don't think you worked on them personally. You may have, I'm not
No, I
sure.
don't think I did.
But Rent-A-Kill is an example, and this will apply to so many other companies as well, is I believe how they are is that they're a bit more of an umbrella. So in America and maybe in Asia, I don't know if they're in Asia, but wherever they may be in the world, they're not known as Rent-A-Kill, but they may be known as another company, and that company will have its own name, it'll have its own colour, and all we simply did was take an existing film, which was very much predominantly red, because that was Rent-A-Kill's colour, strip the logos out, put the new logo in for the new brand they've got in the US, which I can't remember what Terminix it's called, which are a green colour, and it was just simply going through that video, turning it all green where it was red. The core of the video stayed the exact same, nothing actually changed other than the logo and the colour, and all of a sudden their other company that they own has a whole new asset for very little effort. So it's worth thinking about that as well if you own multiples, or it's as simple as just rebranding.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a global brand, you can definitely repurpose things for different markets. We do that for other companies as well. Even if, say, for example, you've done something in America and you've got, it needs to fit this screen and this shop and this kind of social and this XYZ, and then you need a whole different kind of assets for the UK, well, we can still adapt the different screens, we can go in and make changes, we can still adapt it to fit our market. We don't need to start from scratch, so that's worth taking into account as well.
And talking globally, the other thing we haven't really talked about, and this isn't necessarily cutting things down, but it is just, if you are a global company and have people and audiences anywhere, especially if you're in the pharma world, the translating of said content to put it out to new markets, because the message is still going to be the same, but you could subtitle it, change the voiceover if you needed to, which can be done through AI or whatnot.
Yeah.
We do that a lot. We've got a series at the moment which is completely being turned into French. We've got some films that we made about Alzheimer's, which are being put out globally. It's definitely worth considering that as well, which most agencies should be able to help with.
Yeah, I mean, content can definitely be adapted for different languages as well, going in, and whether that's subtitles or just the text on screen.
Yeah.
We can go in and change that, and then you've got videos for all sorts of different countries and languages.
I think one thing to just think about, because I feel like I've mentioned the word strategic a lot throughout this, is a lot of that strategic thinking comes in the early stages, not now we've got the film, what do we do? And that's done in multiple ways, from how you script something, because you're scripting a full film, but you also need to be thinking at the back of your mind, if this was to be cut down further, how could some of these sections, if not told in order, could still link together? And also when you're storyboarding, in your case, when you've done some of the Popeyes or Krispy Kreme stuff that we've ended up filming, is thinking about, okay, this is a full film. If I was to cut out this shot, how would it now flow from that one to that one? Because all that needs to be thought about up front, as opposed to getting to the day of the shoot or into post, when you find two clips don't quite work together, or the story doesn't quite make sense because you've taken a chunk out.
And I think it kind of helps to sort of almost think about the video as like a physical object that you're creating, that if you make something and then you want to go and make adjustments and you haven't planned for it, it's going to be really difficult to make that change later. Whereas if you're designing something from the foundational stage, you can create it in a way that makes it easy to adjust later on and fit different purposes. We have said that once we've completed a project, maybe we'll go back and it's possible to make changes and cut it down into different ways, but it's always more difficult to do that when we haven't planned to do that in the first place. And it's so easy to just go into something with the mindset that we're going to make all sorts of different content from this, and we can then shoot it in a way that allows us to do that.
Yeah. To wrap it all up in a nice little bow, what would be the one thing you would give as a tip for anyone sort of taking on a new project and is thinking about getting the most out of their content? What would be this thing you would suggest?
Yeah, I think always the thing to bear in mind is the purpose of the video that you're creating, because if you know what it is you're trying to achieve, then yeah, your main video might be tailored to do that, but you can achieve that in all sorts of other ways with different kinds of videos. So understanding why it is you're making the video that you're making, and then backtracking from that as like, well, how else can we achieve that with different versions of this same video?
I think actually I would agree to your point, and I'm only going to add to it. And I think really for the sake of a live action shoot is really thinking about how much effort you've gone through, usually as a client, to get that time with the CEO or to get all these employees into one place and maximize their time. Whether it's for one film or you're trying to get 3 films out of them, try to be very strategic, and it only adds like to what you said, because it ends up forming what the basis of those films are. But trying to maximize time with people, and especially those that are hard to get, would be my number one, because all often you don't get much time with, especially when you want very important people. So just thinking about how much you can get from them with a limited amount of time is my number one, I think.
And I think the last thing to say is that this doesn't have to be something that we're not pushing all of this off on the client. We're not saying you need to do all this thinking. We're just saying have the mindset that you can get a lot more for your money if you think about creating more than one video out of a certain piece of content. We can come with all the suggestions as long as you know why you're making the video that you're making. Then we can bring all the different suggestions of how you can get more out of that.
You are right in the sense that it isn't on them to just think about the whole campaign, the whole thing. We will work with them as part of that proposal phase when they come to us, pre-production phase, to help them think strategically also about how to get as much of the content out of it. Because it can be daunting when you suddenly think you're doing one film and suddenly you're creating 10 versions of it. Will help for that. That's the whole point of bringing an agency, and whether it's us or any other agency, it should just be what they do is to be your partner in thinking like that.
Yeah, and absolutely. And it can be as simple as saying, well, we want to make this main video, but here's actually a list of places where we want this video to go. We want to see it on online ads. We want to see it on socials. And just giving us that basic list, we can do all the hard work of figuring out how that film will then tailor all those spaces. But it's just helping us be aware of where you want this video to go.
I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope there was something you could take away from this for your next campaign or future projects. If you liked, make sure you're subscribing us wherever you're watching and listening, and feel free to drop us a comment if you've got any topics you'd like us to discuss in a future video.